Good evening, Yorktown. Welcome to the Town Board meeting on May 12th, 2020. Everyone could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States,
of the United States of America,
to the republic
for which it stands,
nation,
one nation,
individual,
under God,
liberty, and justice.
indivisible,
all.
liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to go a bit out of order quickly, and I'm going to ask before we go into our moment of silence that Councilman Diana read the proclamation recognizing and proclaiming Police Week in the town of Yorktown. Councilman Diana.
I have to go off mute. There we go. All right, I did print it. Let me just get it out here. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Gotcha, Councilman.
All right. Okay, the proclamation is to recognize and proclaim Police Week in the town of Yorktown. Whereas it is the intent of the town board to recognize and proclaim May 10th through 2020 as Police Week in the town of Yorktown in conjunction with the state of New York as well as National Police Week. Whereas this observance is to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. And whereas National Police Week was the first established by Congress and recognized by President John F. Kennedy in 1962 to pay special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, more than 21,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the wall of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas members of the Yorktown Police Department have participated in the Police Unity Tour, traveling 300 miles by bike to raise funds to maintain the National Memorial, and whereas it is the sense of the town board to commend the long-standing efforts of law enforcement in the state of New York, which diligently contributes to the efficient operation of our criminal justice system. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board pause in its deliberations to proclaim May 10th through 16th, 2020 as Police Week in the town of Yorktown, and be it further resolved that the Yorktown Town Board pause in its deliberation to remember that more than 21,000 members of law enforcement communities who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Thank you, Supervisor.
We ask everyone to please join us in a moment of silence, remembering the 21,000 plus who have lost their lives in the line of duty, protecting our family and our community, our state, and our country. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Diana.
Thank you. They're our first line of defense.
Okay, we're going to zip through some business that we have before us. Personnel. We're going to be appointing Justin Prine as a member of the Conservation Board. Appoint Anthony Tripodi as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Appoint John Campobasso as a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and appoint Thomas Dunn as an alternate member of the Parks and Recreation Commission. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? None.
Matt, aren't we reappointing Tony Tripodi?
That is not a reappointment. That is not a reappointment. Tony had resigned originally, and is now,
Okay,
and is now the appoint. Well, I guess technically, yeah, I guess he is being reappointed because he did serve, but he did resign at one point. I also want to take a moment. I'm not sure if we've recognized him before. But Mark Connolly, a longtime member of ABACA, has resigned after serving 25 years on that committee. And I know the Connolly family well, and I want to wish him and his family the best and appreciate his service and time on behalf of the town, and wish him and his family all the best in the next chapter that they are pursuing, and know that Yorktown will always be home to
Yes.
the Connolly family. Next, we're going to go to public hearings.
Actually, Matt, while you're talking about Yorktown families and people, can I just throw one thing out there that I remembered came across my desk yesterday?
Sure.
For people looking for something to do tomorrow and want to take appreciation of some hometown talent, Jessica Lynn is actually in an online talent show tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m., I believe it is. And it's on Facebook at a site called Country Sway, Country SWAY. And it's basically,
and she's short.
yeah, and she's looking to hopefully win
What
a
do I do?
with the same with Brad Paisley and Chris Young's management company. So you know what? It's two birds in one stone. Keep yourselves entertained and help a local Yorktown person who's comes from a great Yorktown family, and her dad is former New York City
I don't
police
know.
law enforcement as well.
Thank you, Councilman. We wish Jessica all the best in the
I'm
competition.
on my
All right, so we're going to move to public hearings. And we're going to call to order the public hearing to consider Teatown Lake Reservation's request for a general maintenance permit for the restoration of a portion of the wetland and repair to the Teatown Lake Dam on the property located at 1600 Spring Valley Road. I'm going to confirm that the clerk has the resolution of the board authorizing the public hearing been entered into the record, and has the affidavit of publication of the official notice been entered into the record as well. Confirmed by the clerk. Diana Quast.
Yes.
Thank you. Very good. And let's see here. And who do we have on behalf of Teatown with us today? We have several people who are, I see, on the call.
It's Danielle Begley Miller from Teatown.
Danielle, how are you?
Good, how are you?
You're doing good, thank you. Do you want to provide just a brief overview of the project?
Yeah, I can. So basically we are lumping together multiple projects. The first is the wetland restoration project that's going to remove 600 cubic yards of sediment in an area that's a woodland demonstration just off the nature center. The second project is the dam repair for Teatown Dam. That's an ongoing repair we do regularly, but it's slated for a bigger repair than typical maintenance. And then the third is just a smaller herbicide treatment in an area with invasive photinia, which is part of that includes a wetland. So that includes a permit as well.
Excellent. Okay. And do we have, excuse me, do we have anyone? I think we're going to open the public hearing. Do we have anyone who would like to speak regarding this particular application before the town board? I know we also have two other individuals I see on the call, Barbara, and I'm sorry, I don't see the person's full name there. Anybody, Town Clerk Quast, do we have anybody who's scheduled to speak on this particular application?
No one contacted me to speak, and I don't see anybody.
And we have no one at this point is lined up to speak, and we have no one contacting the clerk to testify on this matter.
Do you want to go over the reports from your various agencies?
we can absolutely do that. I mean, very briefly, I mean, the Tree Conservation Commission, Planning Board, all brought back positive reviews. I have here a memo from our engineer describing the project as well as his comments. And I believe we also had a positive referral from the Conservation Board as well.
Yes.
Any comments from the board?
I just think it's a great project, and if the soil comes back when they're doing the dredging, comes back clean, I'd like them to consider maybe giving that to our Parks Department to utilize for the soccer fields that they need, that they're trying to finish up over by Catherine Street, I believe it is.
That probably wouldn't be a problem. They may end up with a problem with that hydric type of soil, Ed, where it becomes very soupy, so to speak.
I
The
thought
answer is, and anyone, yes. Otherwise, you won't dry out.
I thought, are you using the dredge and drain system with that, or are they just dredging it and dumping it?
So we're planning to do removals with actual like mechanical equipment. It's not wet, like it's wet, but it's mucky. It's not like it's in a lake, like a typical, hydraulic dredge would be. The concern we have about the soil, we're actually treating it all as if it's contaminated because it does have so many invasive species in it. That's part of the reason why we're doing this project. It would be really hard to screen and remove those. So our plan and part of the budget and why the budget is expensive is we're actually planning to treat it all as contaminated and dispose of it properly.
Gotcha.
There's one question that the DEP has asked us to have you respond to. It says, there is limited information regarding the removal of invasive species. Please have the applicant verify that the herbicides are for terrestrial use only. More information should be provided regarding the invasive species removal plan. I assume you got that letter, Danielle.
Rebecca, I think this is referring to your Photinia project specifically. I think you answered that email.
I wasn't sure if it was the removal in the wetland area for the project that Barbara's working on. But the Photinia is specifically going to be using Rodeo and Garlon. So they're terrestrial herbicides for wetland use specifically. So that will only be on the terrestrial plants that we're targeting. It won't be sprayed on any other species.
Okay.
We're not planning to use any herbicides in the wetland area. So those would all be mechanical removals, which is why I think they're referencing the Photinia.
Right, right.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Nope, I'm
Good.
I'm going to one more time ask if there are any public comments for anyone who may have contacted the town clerk. Do we have anybody else who tried to contact the town clerk to speak on this matter? No?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close. We have a second.
so moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Any abstain?
Not do a resolution tonight, can we do it at another meeting because there are some things that I'll talk to you about?
Okay, so then we will move this to another meeting for their final approval. Any questions from the board? Any comments?
It's like a good project. Let's move
Okay.
it forward.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it. We're going to move to our second public hearing of the night. And we'll open the public hearing to consider the request of Tracy Chalifo of LLC on behalf of property owner Ann Hess for a wetland and SWIP permit to dredge a pond on the property located at 1390 Old Logging Road. And we will confirm with the clerk once again that that everything was published, the official notice was published, and the public hearing has been entered into the record, correct? There it is. Perfect. Thank you. I do our due diligence, right? All right. Do we have anyone who wants to speak on the applicant at 1390 Old Logging Road? Anybody in the queue?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tracy?
Hi.
Oh, how are you?
How are you? I'm fine. Sorry if you tried me earlier. I'm here now.
Perfect. Great. Well, we appreciate your time. Could you give us a quick overview, a quick synopsis of the project for the public?
Absolutely. Would you like me to share the screen for a moment?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Okay, bear with me. All right, bear with me one second. Okay, are you able to see the plan?
No, we don't see anything on the screen.
How about now?
There we go. Yep, we got
There we go.
There we got it.
Pretty colored plan. Okay, very good. Okay, so for a brief overview of the project, we are proposing to suction dredge a 2/10 of an acre pond. We would be removing about 520 cubic yards of wet sediment. It would be pumped from the pond to a geotextile tube, which is essentially like a large porous bladder. So the slurry would be pumped into the tube and the water would be returned to the pond as the pumping process takes place so that the pond level is not drawn down, and that protects the wildlife within the pond. And after the sediment has been cleaned out, the sediment would be left in the bag for a number of weeks to dewater and dehydrate. The time frame for how long it takes to dewater varies depending upon air temperature and humidity. And then once it's completely dried, it would be exported from the site. Also part of this application would be some habitat improvements at this side of the pond. We would be removing some invasive barberry from that area, and we would be restoring it with some native wetland plants. 7 sweet pepper bush and 7 spice bush would be called for to restore this area. Additionally, here at the inlet channel, we're proposing to construct a very small deceleration pool, and this is just for the owners to be able to have an opportunity to clean out any leaves or sediment that might come from upstream before it can get to the pond and accumulate again. We would use the existing driveway as a construction access. There would not be trucks coming in and out of here frequently at all. It would just be to bring the equipment in to place the pump that assists in dredging the pond. And I would also like to note that I did read the comments and from, I believe, sorry, I'm not sure which department. Are you hearing me okay?
It was a planning board.
Okay, so from the planning board, I did see a comment about relocating the stockpile. Right. That's perfectly fine. I'm thinking that we could move it over here between the driveway and the dewatering bag. And at least there's, a little bit more of a buffer between that stockpile, which we expect to be a small amount, but nonetheless, let's move it away from the pond just to be sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, do you have any questions? I can
No,
continue.
no, that was great. I'm glad you addressed it because that was gonna be my question.
Okay, additionally, from the planning board memo, I saw, I think it was question 9 of the EAF. There was just a typo. We should have answered no on that. Yeah, question number 9 of the short EAF. Yes, it should be checked as no. I agree. And I'd just like to point out that after the dewatering bag is removed, this area of lawn would be restored to its pre-construction grade and it would be reseeded. Sediment and erosion controls would be kept in place throughout the process, wrapping the entire work area. It's a little hard to see on this colored plan, but once the site is stable, then those erosion controls would be removed.
Can I say something here?
Yes.
The owner of the pond and Hess and you are a contractor. This is really, really good things to do, and I'm very happy to support because this is the kind of thing this kind of thing is really very important to preserve and protect our land, wetland, the trees, and environment, everything, and removing all these unnative species to protect us, and we protect them, the little creature in the water.
Thank you, Councilman.
It's very good project, you know. I mean, there was one done right here in the next street from me, and it was really nice. So wonderful job, you know. I hope that you have a good weather.
Thank you.
Excellent. From the Tree Conservation Advisory Commission, they concluded a tree removal permit is not required. They supported the proposed removal of invasive species of plants and replanting with native species as outlined in the application. They commended the applicant, as Councilman Patel just pointed out, for including the habitat improvement as part of the project. Conservation Board, their memo, major requirements have been met by the plans submitted to ensure minimal impact to the wildlife and proper treatment of the dredge material. The board had no objections to the project moving forward as presented. And you addressed the issues raised by the planning board regarding the moving of the soil stockpile, as well as the typo for the EAF question number 9.
Thank you.
We have anyone from the public who would like to speak about this applicant. Councilor Quast, do we have anybody who would like to speak?
Mr. Amlin, do you want to speak on this?
Mr. Amler, you're muted. Yep, yeah, I think you have to hit that. There you go.
I'm sure Tracy covered everything I might have to say, but just wanted to jump in and see how this was going. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Quinn, any comments? Town engineer?
One of our comments, this type of project was
Mr. Quinn, I think we lost Mr. Quinn.
There he's back.
Oh, there you
Sorry
go.
about that. They this a very similar approach to a pond dredging was done at the Brandon property on Sawmill River Road about 2-3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems they had was as soon as the divers went in the pond to do the dredging, the whole water became very cloudy, and a lot of the dirty water got past the turbidity curtain. So we were asking, and I know I talked to Tracy about having like a bypass plan, so we could a contingency plan essentially. So if the curtain by itself wasn't working, they could do some type of pump around system. So that was our recommendation, and I don't know how we left off. Tracy, did you check into that or?
Yes. So what we found, and Mark may want to jump in at some point here, but I'll start. So typically we don't perform work under high flow conditions. So if the water levels are real high, we're not in there suction diving, suction dredging anyway. So we don't expect that to happen. We have not had issues in the past on any of our projects with that, but, you know, in order to ensure that there are no issues, a turbidity curtain will be in place. It will be checked periodically. I forgot to point it out on the plan. I could screen share again. And just in case, if for any reason there's a flush of water, we could have a sump pump set up in order to divert the water so that nothing flushes through. But again, we only expect to work during times of low flow anyhow.
Okay.
Can I ask something here? If there is a heavy rain or some storm or something, you know, is there any issue with that? Because, you know, then it just can just overflow, you know, from the pond by itself during your process.
Right. We have not encountered that in the past on the multiple projects that we've worked on. So again, we won't work during heavy rain, and basically after a day of, you know, if we work on a day and the weather is dry and we're vacuuming up the sediment settles, you know, even that evening and throughout the night, the sediment is settling down. So it's not constantly cloudy. You know, we work for a number of hours and then they're not working for, you know, 16 hours or so, you know, from late that afternoon and over the night, everything is settling down. Mark, I don't know if you want to jump in here.
Sure. The other thing to keep in mind is, you know, this pond, for whatever it's worth, is not a super huge pond. And we displace quite a bit of water as we're doing this, which then gets stored inside the geotextile tube. Odds are we're going to have excess capacity for additional stormwater as it comes in. That said, we don't work during heavy rain. And as Tracy has indicated, we've never had even remotely a problem with turbidity.
Okay, I mean, I think that's a very reasonable approach. And the other project didn't have any holding capacity, so all the water was continuously, you know, running through. It's just something that we'll have to keep an eye on. And obviously, you know, maybe putting pumps all on the side doesn't make sense up front. We'll just watch how things go. And if we need to make a field change, you know, we'll work with you guys to do something else.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. That's great. We appreciate that.
And Tracy, would you be one of the other questions we had was whether you'll be overseeing the project. I'm assuming Mark's the contractor and you're the professional, that you'll be involved during the construction to troubleshoot any issues with us?
That's correct. I will be
Okay.
actively involved throughout the process.
Okay, because one of our suggested conditions was, I don't remember the duration of the project, but every 2 weeks we would get a report, you know, that all the erosion control measures are in place, you know, that there's no extra turbidity or, you know, no cloudy water passing through. Is that something that you guys are agreeable to?
Yes, if that's a condition of the permit, absolutely.
The DEC has a standard checklist, which we could get to you. You know, it'd be kind of a template to follow, things that you need to verify on a regular basis.
Yes,
Files and things like that.
absolutely.
Any other questions or comments from the board? No? And I want to
No, I'm good.
one more time, we have no one from the public waiting to speak on this application. No.
Supervisor, I prepared draft conditions. It was part of the memo that I had given to the board back in February. I wasn't sure about the comments tonight, so I didn't prepare an approval resolution, but I could draft something up for the next meeting.
That's fine.
That's great.
That's fine. Then we'll make a motion to close the public hearing on this application. Do I have a second?
So
Second.
moved.
All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? Any abstained? Yeah, Mr. Quinn, if you can get that over to us and we can include it on the next board meeting, that'd be great.
Okay.
Other one, T-Town.
And T-Town as well, please.
Okay.
Very good. Okay.
Thank
Tracy,
you all.
Thank you. Mark, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Be well.
Great night.
You
Have a good
too.
night.
Bye-bye.
All right, public hearings are now completed that were on the agenda. We're going to move to our work session items, joined by our comptroller, Pat Caparel.
Hey, Pat Caparel.
Hello there, Alice Roker.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I see you're smiling. That's good.
Yeah, very good.
Was Barbara Corsack joining us, Diana, our tax receiver?
She will be. She hasn't signed on yet.
Okay. Very good. I thought it was important, considering the update that we provided last week for our finance team and our tax receiver, to provide an additional update both for the board and the public. Pat, do you want to begin while we wait for Barbara?
Well, I'll start and I'll jump in for her and say that the tax collection went a lot better than I anticipated. I can say that. We collected well over 90% of the budgeted amounts. So that's very, very positive. Very happy about that.
There's Barbara.
There she is.
Stepped
Great.
on your toes a little, Barbara.
That's all right. Had a little technical difficulty.
Okay. So Pat was telling us that we had about 90% collection for our taxes, which is great.
Do we lose you guys?
Nope, we're here. Barbara, you there?
Barbara's
Yes.
here.
Great. Fantastic.
I have a question for the controller.
Sure.
Yes, Councilman Patel.
Do you have any communication with the county that how much, the green is going to come, how many percentage of what was forecasted last year?
For what? The sales tax?
Tax.
Yeah.
They're saying at this point, the last I had heard from them was a minimum of a 20% reduction.
Okay.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm anticipating probably about 2 million less than what we had budgeted. Probably a lot more. We got the first payment for the first quarter, and that came in approximately what we had budgeted. But it's the remaining quarters that we're really concerned with.
The oil prices are down.
Right. Right.
Make a difference.
So that'll be a big hit to our budget. Right there, like I said, that's well over $2 million. I'm figuring somewhere with 2.5 million just in the sales tax collection.
It's important for the folks at home to remember that we still have to pay the county tax warrant, correct, Pat and Barbara?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we have a payment that's due in May and then another one that's due in November.
Right.
So, and based on the tax collection, we're short on what we have in funds, but we still have to make the county whole.
And we'll be
So
paying.
that'll be more money
So
for
this
us to
is
spend.
a 60-40 split, 12.5 million in May, the
Right.
remainder in November, and at this point we're about 2 million short. Is that still accurate?
It's about right, yeah, based on the last reports that we've run for the tax collections. And Barbara and I are running the reports on a weekly basis, so,
Great.
Stands to go up from there, so we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Perfect. Barbara, could you just give us a quick update on the extension and the reduced penalty fee structure for folks at home?
You have, May will be 0.5% up till May 31st. And then come June to July 15th will be 1%. Then July 16th goes right to the normal schedule.
Which is what?
5% for July and then 7% for August. So if you didn't get your hardship letter in, you could still sign the form and send it to me.
Great. Perfect. Questions from the board while we have both our comptroller and our tax receiver?
Pat, believe me, I'm not for doing this. I want to keep our employees whole, but I understand that there are neighboring towns that are now furloughing. Are you anticipating anything of this nature that we're going to possibly have to?
It could very well come to that. Okay, it's completely based on the revenue point, and we're taking such a hit in different places in the revenue. It'll be the sales tax, it's the mortgage tax, it's the fines from the court. Those are the biggest ones. And if, I can't keep the expenditures to an absolute minimum, then we will have no alternative but to explore those possibilities. That's why I'm going crazy right now and cutting everybody off on their spending
Yeah,
so that we can keep all the employees whole.
yeah, I
Mortgage.
think that that's important. You know, because they are, like, the police is our first line of defense for
Absolutely.
law enforcement. I mean, we have, you know, God forbid we have a storm and we get water main breaks and, you know, the pump stations go down and stuff like that. You know, that's why I want to keep our folks, you know, make sure we can keep them working.
Right.
Completely agreed. And that's my first and foremost concern is the revenue, the salary lines first.
And let's be
Yeah.
and let's be very clear though that we're doing everything in our power to protect every employee that we have to avoid any type of furlough or layoffs. And so that's our goal. Number one is protecting the employees. I think long term, number two, our goal, working as hard as we can, is you know, looking down the road, is to come back at a budget with a 0% increase. And that's going to take a lot of effort, an absolute lot of effort. But I think that's going to be the goal. That has to be the goal for us as we look down the road towards the end of the year. But all that's going to be dependent on the revenues that come in.
I mean,
How far down is the mortgage tax?
Right now, the last reports I have on that, I think I'm going to probably be about $500,000 short.
Okay.
I mean, let's
I'm being extremely optimistic with the numbers right now,
Okay.
and doing a lot of praying.
we've been through this before. And I think that, you know, I know our department heads have tightened their belts probably about as much as they can tighten them without strangling. But, you know, I think that this town is a great town, and we will come through this once again and keep our employees all working.
Yep.
I am absolutely not for, if we can possibly help it, any type of furlough.
You know, one of the things, Tommy, I can say is that we're very different than most governments. We have a small amount of people who make Yorktown run 365 days a year.
That's right.
We don't have any assistants to the assistant or anything like that. I'm very proud of the people that work for the town under extraordinary conditions at this point.
Alice, they've done a tremendous job, our employees. And I see one right here. Sir, how are you? Mr. Cruz is right here. It's making sure that the place is locked up nice and tight. But it's the employees have just been absolutely tremendous, going above and beyond considering the challenges and circumstances. And I want to remind people, and I had a conversation with Westchester supervisors today, we remain at a 50% reduction, mandated reduction.
Right.
So we're still picking up, you know, you're still getting your bulk pickup, and I know it's been delayed, and I understand the frustrations and part of that. But we had Kim Inglis-Gage here last week explaining how much they've picked up, and it's five people a day moving tons, like actual tons of garbage. And, you know, from our water department to our highway department, everyone in between, our administrative staff, I mean, everyone's just been really, really fantastic, to the point, and Councilman Lachterman can talk about this, over at the Senior Nutrition Center. We've had staff who've just shown up to go help the Senior Nutrition Center deliver their meals. I mean, there's something really special about that. And they take great pride in this town and what they do for this town and the services they provide for this town. And we're going to fight like heck to make sure that they're protected and that they can continue to work for the people they want to work for and provide the services that they do a great job with.
Absolutely. Hey, Pat, I did have a question. Do we know when the audit is due to come back from the auditors?
Actually, no, because they cannot release the audit report right now. They're waiting for one law firm to submit the confirmation. So our audit report cannot be released until all confirmations are received. And I'm just hoping that they receive it soon, because I really don't want to start the whole thing all over again.
Right.
So that's completely out of our control at this point. Sorry.
No problem.
Other questions for Pat or for Barbara?
Barbara, I got no money.
Huh. Well, that's why we're going to work hard and try to and make sure that we're doing the right thing with the budget at the end of the year and protect the taxpayers as best we can. Pat and Barbara, thank you so much. We really appreciate the update. I'm sure we're going to be doing this more frequently to make sure that folks at home understand the financial situation that the town continues to fight. And we saw today again the governor Cuomo. I think it's north of $60 billion that the state's asking from the federal government as a result of this. So it's and I can tell you that I'm hearing it from my colleagues and the supervisors across the county, across the region. There's no community that is dodging this bullet, and we're doing the best that we can. And I really appreciate all your efforts.
You try.
You do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, have a great night.
You
Have a
too.
great
Thank you.
You know, I have another question. Is there any communication with the assessments department that are we going down, how much, or going up?
I mean, the new role is being worked on by our town assessor. I have not been given a report at this point in time what it looks like, but we can have her join us at a future work session meeting and have her present it.
Yeah, I thought any just off the record, any comment you have? Okay.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Next, we've got we got Greg Brown. Our good friend Greg Brown is
Butterfly. Forever.
Yep.
He has not signed on yet.
He's not signed on yet. Okay. Do we have anyone on his committee who's signed on?
Phyllis?
What was in the email? I don't have it with me right now.
So it's so we're coming up to June 1st, and the Monarch Butterfly Program was something I believe was started last year, gaining town recognition, and I thought it was important for us to take it back up and continue to offer our support in ways to recognize the Monarch Butterfly Program that Greg and his team continue to work on. And I know that he sent around a memo of status of a couple of things dated April 21st. And I see Phyllis Bach. Phyllis, how are you? Chair of our Conservation Board. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. So, Phyllis, are you able to speak a bit on the Monarch Butterfly project while we wait for Greg?
Well, I know that he's been hard at work trying to bring a lot of different groups together on this. I'm representing T-Town with this project. I know there's somebody representing the Yorktown Garden Club.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been busy researching different avenues of not only getting other groups involved, but also getting a way to get out into the community.
Yeah.
As having ways that kids can get involved, but through education with the schools, which is kind of on hold now since.
Yeah, I was going to say I can tell you that I spoke with Superintendent Stone and Superintendent Hatter. Both of them were very excited about the prospect of bringing the program into their schools, and they had identified, I think, some real potential avenues to do that. Unfortunately, due to the situation we're in, it's been derailed, and I see that as one of the unfortunate notes within the memo from Greg about school participation. But that could hopefully be something that we can reconnect with and have ready for next year.
Right. Yeah. So. I don't know particularly what he was going to talk about. He had just asked me and a few other people that were involved, the 4 people who started it with him, or that he brought in the beginning. So I was here to just lend a hand, and obviously he's not here to make his case. But I know he was looking for funding for certain projects, possibly getting decals for stores to put in their windows, just to say that they are support it. And some stores may have planters out front that they would plant with native plants or pollinator friendly plants. Yeah, he had a whole list. I'm sorry that I can't give you more than
No,
that.
it's okay. We don't mean to put you on the spot. We appreciate you joining us. And Diana, have you heard from Greg at all?
No, I have him on texting back and forth, but I'm not sure if he can get on yet.
Okay. So why don't we move to our next item then? Do we have Jim Moderano ready, Diana? And then if Greg jumps back on, we can always come back to it. There we go. All right. Phyllis, hang tight, okay? We're gonna try to come back.
Okay.
Great. All right. We have with us our Parks and Recreation Superintendent, Jim Moderano. Who else? Is that Joe Falcone we have there? Commissioner Falcone, how are you, sir? Commissioner Falcone, there you go. Fantastic. We have two items pertaining to Parks and Rec on the work session agenda. Going to start with the first item, which is herbicide, pesticide treatments at our local parks. And I know that our town attorney, Adam Rodriguez, was engaged with a conversation with Mr. Moderano about this. Jim, can you tell us what the notification process currently is when we provide treatments at any of our local parks?
Just want to go on the record as saying, just first of all, we never use pesticides. It's always herbicides, all organic.
Right. Right.
Yep. So that being said, really, there isn't a current policy of us giving the public notification on when we are spraying those herbicides, but maybe it's time that we change that.
So and I fully acknowledge that they are organic, the product that you're using, which is great. I see it more as a good neighbor initiative. There is a law that requires when applicants or pesticides or herbicides are used that there's proper notification. It doesn't apply to the municipalities, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't do them. And again, I don't think it matters if you're spraying lemon juice or Roundup. I think people have a right to know what's on their parks. Do you have a schedule that you utilize? Just trying to see if we can figure out the easiest way of doing this.
I definitely know within a few weeks when we're going to put it down. So I would like to have something on our website that allow our constituents to be able to take a look. You start to smell that orangey aroma.
Right.
Wondering where it came from. You can certainly take a look. Right. And furthermore, I would like to start putting up signs, especially in our playgrounds, when we do spray anything like that.
Yeah, I can tell you that I've heard from residents who live near some of our pocket parks, and even though it's organic, they may not know, and they do not know still that A is organic or what it even is. So I think if we can provide some greater information to them, I think it's going to ease a lot of fears and concerns. I can tell you as a parent, when I bring my kids to the parks, if I'm smelling an odor, a chemical odor or whatever it might be, you think twice about it. So I think if we can be more forthcoming with that information, it's going to make everyone much more comfortable to be in our parks and our playgrounds. And so maybe we can come up with some notification requirements that we're going to adhere to. Absolutely. We'll certainly continue this discussion, and I'll have something to present to you soon. Great. And Mr. Rodriguez, if you can chime in at any point and work with Mr. Moderano on this, just so we can see what other communities do. I mean, they may not, I'm not sure, but it seems to me that it could be a very important initiative for the public to be educated on what we are putting on our parks, and B, allow them to make educated choices for their families and themselves.
Jim, can I say something here?
Yes, Mr.
Yes. You follow the MSDS on naturally. They are naturally materials.
I can't.
Define the organic, okay?
No, it is totally organic. That's the point. And I recognize
what is organic?
Caught this at the end. We have somebody applying the pesticides. We're doing it on our own.
We'd never apply pesticides.
Don't say pesticide. That's against the law in Westchester County.
Well, a lot of municipalities are exempt with applying pesticides. I know the DEP does it at Kensico Dam. They spray Roundup. But it's when they do it at times when nobody's around and absorbed by the vegetation.
Okay.
Yeah, my department doesn't put any pesticides.
Nobody
down.
has a license, so you have to have somebody else come in and do it, right?
Correct. There's the one exception would be for we would call in a professional to take care of the bees, where you would put a pesticide down. That's maybe something.
I think it also, Commissioner Falcone, to your point, maybe it's worth exploring an integrated pest management system. That's something that's out there that I don't believe that we have in the town. At least I haven't been notified of it or seen it. So that's another conversation that we can have. That's something that I know that other municipalities are utilizing, which would be good. But in regards to this, I think it's just a simple notification, some publication, so that folks know if they go to one of the parks or one of the playgrounds and there is something there for them and they're not asking questions. If they do ask the questions, there's a place of information where they can be informed right at the park if you want to do some type of signage. It's just education and letting them know that it's okay, that it's safe. I think that's the most important thing. We're just ensuring them proper safety for them and their families.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. I think it's important for our community to know what's being put on the grass and what they're creating around.
Jim, I have another question. At the gazebo, those bumblebees, there are hundreds and hundreds of holes in the ceiling, and nobody has done anything. So, is there any plan to just to do some?
Aren't they carpenters? They're those huge ones that I think you're eating through the wood.
Bumblebee, very big one. Those, and the big holes. In the ceiling.
What's that, Jim?
What do you say?
Are you planning
gazebo?
Some kind of
the Jack DeVito gazebo. They have those large bees that fly around. I know he's 100% right.
Okay.
And then again, though, that goes to Commissioner Falcone. I'd be happy to work with you on it. An integrated pest management program.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to have a pesticide license myself years ago when I was on the county golf courses, and you could do it under direct supervision also. So if you have a foreman in another town who has a license, if you want to start our people, there's core classes. They get core credits when they get 10 classes, updates and stuff. But that's down the road. We can have a discussion on that. Yes.
Absolutely. Let's tackle this one first, then we can go to the integrated pest management. That'd be perfect.
Well, I don't want to. The golf course is going to have their own pest manager, so maybe we can incorporate that into the town once they have their people doing. Because he had told me he was bringing in professionals. So down the road we can discuss all this when the time comes.
That's a great point. Any questions or thoughts from the board?
I just have a thought for Jimmy. I think that it would be smart to put up signs prior to you spraying and explaining when you're spraying and how long it's going to take before it dissipates and what it is. Because you know what? Not everyone will read a publication.
Exactly.
But if you're bringing their kids to a park, they'll see the sign.
Exactly.
Well, there is a re-entry time also. That's what they talk about. Re-entry, how long you go and stuff.
Right, exactly.
But I mean, you go to places like
I have another question.
Up in Mohegan Lake.
That the town employee, they understand and read the MSDS shit comes with that. Because, even though if they are not applying, they should be aware of that.
Absolutely, yes. Yep.
Their own protection and all that.
Jimmy, could you explain to the people listening a little bit about the herbicide that you do put down, just to give them an idea of what they may encounter if you have already started to put it down? I know it's orange-based. Basically, it's crushed up orange or burnt orange or something. As a matter of fact, I did a little research on that stuff, and it's actually put into cow feed and so forth because they develop mushrooms in their stomach, and it kills the mushrooms in the cow stomachs.
Really? Wow.
It's a based herbicide. Like I said, it's all organic. It will have an odor of almost like a condensed orange juice. Pretty potent, though. You could definitely smell it from yards away. We also at times corn gluten as a pesticide.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I think it's something that we can work on and just be more transparent with. So that'll be great. Working with you guys to figure out what that notification is. I was saying earlier, I was over on Marcy Street at one point last year, and you just sprayed the pocket park over there, and you could smell it on front steps. And the neighbors say that they, when you get the treatments, impacts them because they can smell it and they don't know what it is,
Exactly,
whether it's
right.
citrus or not, or organic or not. They should still know. And so I think if we can figure out the right way of communicating that, I think that's just going to make everyone feel, like I said, safer. And that's the
That's it.
I agree.
There's a product called Burnout, and it smells like vinegar, believe it or not. It's called Burnout, another herbicide. So, so there's a lot of options, a lot of things, you know.
I think I'd rather smell oranges myself.
Yeah, I'd rather the oranges too. Very good. And we'll circle back on this, Jim. We'll work with you and Commissioner Falcone and Adam Rodriguez.
sure.
And, see what we can put. And then let's go talk about our favorite golf course. Well, second favorite golf course, maybe.
Yes.
And that's the par three golf course. As a reminder, Mohansick is open, by the way, for the folks at home.
All county courses are open now, all 6 of them.
Yep, absolutely. You still have to practice social distancing. Are they allowing golf carts?
1 person per cart right now. So that's what they're doing. They ordered extra golf carts in the county courses, so they have extra carts, but they've been mobbed. I understand they've been mobbed. It's people got to get outside. So they're following for the most part, yes.
Great.
The restaurants are closed.
Right.
The pro shop, you're only going for a tea time, and then you got to go right out, and that's it. So there's no food or anything at the golf courses right now.
Right. All right. So what's going on with the par three up in Jefferson Valley?
Yeah.
What's
Do we have Mr. Nussbaum on the call?
Do we have Mr. Nussbaum, Diana?
Isn't he here with us?
Is Frank or Sean on the call?
You have Frank. I see Frank coming on. Yep.
There's Sean.
And there's Sean. Sean's got his quarantine beard going.
I need a barber too.
And Mr. was not on the call. I don't believe he was going to try and make it. He may not be able to make it. So let's just go a little bit further back. Go through a little bit of the history of the past few months. We got first a small violation from the wetlands of the DEC. We went through all the hoops that they needed, and we essentially no longer have to put in a joint environmental application unless we do have a disturbance within 100 adjacent feet from that was done. But while we were wrapping up that, the Division of Water issued another violation requiring us to develop a notice of intent and a slip. So that was March 3rd. Soon after that, obviously, COVID hit and made things a little bit more difficult to get everything in order. They did, however, at that time, develop this erosion control, which I'm sure you can't see in great detail, but I can supply to the town board. And they did fill out the notice of intent application. They just need to create a summary of all that on a separate document. So we're waiting to get that done to then send that into the DEC.
And by the way, when you say that they required us to do certain things, it was really the applicant, correct? It wasn't the town.
Correct. The applicant to provide this. In the original agreement, the applicant took assumption of all permits for this site.
Right.
The town is noted on the violations.
Right.
Not to say that the town isn't on the hook if things really went bad. So it's important to ensure that this gets submitted as soon as possible, and that we no longer do any work, which they haven't. I've been checking on them weekly on the property itself. That was very clear. Any work done going further without this NOI would certainly maybe some fines.
Right. And I know we have.
So they've completed what they have to do.
So far, I'm just waiting for them to put in the application to the DEC. And they seem to be very close on finishing.
Okay.
As a reminder to the applicants, golf is allowed.
Yeah.
You can have people out there
Sure
playing.
is.
We know that.
Time is money, right there,
I-
Mr.
I-
Murphy.
I have a question.
Mr. Taggart.
Will the folks be coming back to finish the planning board process up?
That's in regards to the parking plan, I believe you're referring to?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Take that. Sean?
Yes.
Sean, are you coming back to the planning board for your parking?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. In fact, I'll be in touch with John. I mean, with this Corona stuff, it kind of throw a loophole into a lot of stuff we're doing. But yes, we're definitely going to be doing that.
Fantastic.
I'll be in touch with you, John.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from any of our department heads who remain on the call?
Good.
How are they
Matt,
doing
one
with the actual planting, et cetera, that's going to be going on there, Jimmy? Or Joe, do we have any idea when the piles of dirt are going to be re-leveled and the planting started and so on and so forth, and a detail on that?
Yeah, to answer the question, it's really contingent on the DEC and accepting the NOI and then giving us the green light. You know, nothing can be done until the NOI is, one, submitted, and two, and the proper permitting.
Well, hopefully they're going to submit it soon because now is the time to do it while nothing can be done.
Alice?
Yeah?
We have, we submitted to things that we have engineers that are also we've been working with. They compiled some stuff which we gave to Jimmy. On that note, I did get in touch with an engineering company that hopefully he'll be looking at the paperwork that we have given to Jimmy. He'll give us the heads up if that's going to work or not. If it needs to be completed more and going forward, we'll follow that up as on a fast process.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's possible.
Mike,
I reviewed that plan that Jim was holding up earlier, and you know, there's a checklist that has to be followed to file that paperwork with the state. So there were a few missing items. Jim, I know you were trying to get a meeting with those folks, but the sooner the better, so we can get through all those items and we can sign off on before we have to sign off on before they submit.
Mike, yeah, great point. I talked to the head of the project, and he said that he's meeting with his engineer tomorrow. Hopefully, he'll be able to sign off on the erosion plan as well as finish, you know, the rest of that NOI document. Application, excuse me.
Very good. Commissioner Falcone, any other thoughts?
No, that's it. I just hopefully it's we can get rolling as soon as possible because we've already missed the growing season.
Right.
So hopefully, if we get the process going, paperwork and plan, we'll be on our way. Hopefully.
Very good. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Hey, Joe, I apologize for not stopping to say hello the other night. I was trying to drop off some masks for some seniors.
Trying to grow grass again.
Yeah, I'll be doing that in my front.
Yeah, you know.
We're keeping our lab in the back so he doesn't rip it all up on
There
me.
you go. Very good. Yorktown's represented by two Yorktown residents at the EOC Emergency Operations Center, myself and another gentleman. Just want to let you know, Matt.
Great. I appreciate it. I appreciate all your help and efforts during this trying time. I know you've been doing a great job.
We'll get there. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Good on board. Be safe and be well.
Appreciate it.
All your families.
You too.
Stay safe, everybody.
Name, Sean.
All right, we're going to try to go back, Diana, if we can. Do we have Greg Brown?
I just turn this off.
Yep, Greg is
I'm
on.
on the call.
Greg, how are you, my friend?
Well, I was really good until I found out that my file that had all my information on Zoom was showing me no longer as a participant in Zoom. So that was unexpected.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, the gremlins did get me, but everything else is just hunky dory.
Excellent.
So I'm sorry I'm a little late, and I'm just doing this by my iPhone.
No problem. And I know we have Andrew Drews with us, and I know that we have Phyllis. I think Phyllis Bach still with us. So we do have some of your committee members.
Well, that's great. I'll take you through some of the information that I sent out.
Great.
And I would
And I would suggest that as we go through it, and given the time of the evening, that I'll do it with brevity unless there's a reason for discussion, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. So the first thing I'll mention is that there was one of the items that I sent out was an email which contained the status as of 4/21. That was the last formal update that we provided to the team. And on top of that, I put a number of attachments, which included the Monarch Butterfly Proclamation, which we'll go through.
Yep.
There was also the Yorktown Pollinator Pathway News, because in the early edition of the new Pollinator Pathway News, it did feature the announcement that we were going to celebrate the monarch migration. So that was pre-announced at that time, which was a great thing to happen.
Awesome.
I also attached a number of other items, such as examples of shopping bags with graphics on them as well, and a series of monarch butterfly information pamphlets and packages that include a bunch of how-to for various audiences that would be needed. I want to thank the members of the team on the call, as well as Allison, who's apparently not on the call. And all of them have been very helpful in putting this together. So I'm going to start right off with the punch list, if I may. So the first one is the Monarch Butterfly Migration Tracking System. One of the things we wanted to make sure that we could do is that we had some tool sets that we could take off the shelf and use, as opposed to building our own. And that tool set exists on a site called Journey North. I recommend anyone who wants to know more about the monarch butterfly migration, that's a great place to go. And I was on it yesterday and today. It's easy to log in, believe it or not, and that's hard for me to say, given what I've just experienced. So in that, it shows where the migration of the butterflies has reached, and they are right at our doorstep. In the mail package that I sent out earlier today, I did have a picture, a scan of that tracking tool, and it shows the pathway of the migration. You can see it's primarily an East Coast migration, though there's some center as well as West Coast migrations, but the dominance is certainly on the East Coast. Some of the reasons why that this is something that we may want to initiate is there's no, as far as I can determine, no town or entity that has kind of claimed the ground of being the monarch butterfly home site, that they celebrate various things. So this is kind of open territory that we could announce ourselves over time, if not immediately, as the welcoming place for the monarch butterflies as they go through their migration, which, by the way, is bidirectional. It's both north and then it turns around and goes back down south. Interesting bit of science news is that this is also one of the things that is very important to our citizen scientists. A lot of schools do engage in the tracking of this migration and use it for STEM type educational purposes. So that tool set of how to track is already in place. One of the things that we were going to do, and we have suspended, and I'll get to that in a second, was actually having the schools involved in the tracking mechanism and getting them to use this as part of their educational experience. I also followed up after we shut our schools down for the pandemic with a set of information that was available for those who wanted to pursue it on homeschooling, but that has not moved forward. So we're in a whole condition on education. We may be able to pick that back up in the fall on the return migration. So the tool sets are in place. I'd like to make sure that we have some place that we can reference that on the town site. We'll put it up on the Grange as well. That just says, here's how you get to it's just a reference. It's just, here's how you get to the Journey North website to log in both initial sightings and subsequent sightings of matters related to the monarch butterfly. And also there's tidbits and information packages on how you can put milkweed and obtain both seeds and plugs for implementation to create the pollinator pathway in terms of your gardening activities that would facilitate the monarch butterflies have a place to both nourish themselves, lay their eggs, and continue the cycle. What's interesting about these beautiful critters is that there's really no real science understanding yet as to how they find their way north and then back down, because the whole cycle is multi-generational. So it's hard for us to so far understand how you can hand the baton off from one generation to the next and then find your way back home. So the initial participating locations for this, we've talked to Meadows, Hemlock Hills, as late as today I spoke with them. Both indicated an interest in participating. I did speak to Yorktown Pizza. The Garden Club is in this as well as T-Town. So I want to particularly thank the members of those two outfits. Club Fit has indicated an interest. Bill is interested. He's got his hands filled with obviously commercial enterprise right now, but he has some available space that we might be able to sneak a garden or two in there in terms of having the pollinator pathway be there to support our butterflies. And also we met with by the phone with JV Mall and had a discussion with them as to whether we can collaborate with them, and there were some opportunities that we need to pursue with them as well. Over time, and I don't think right out of the gate this first 30 days or so, that we would have some locations, such as some of the two plums I just mentioned, and possibly another, maybe Fable would be a good candidate. As a resource site for people to go and be able to pick up various pieces of material such as plugs and seeds and things like that. The next item on this, and by the way, the code here is if you see a $sign, that means there's some expense involved in the exercise. And if there's a K, that means that it's part of a kit that we're building that would be used by particularly commercial enterprises and other organizations to support the migration. On number 3, the initial pollinator pathway, I mentioned that. We have copies available that we can make from the initial one and also subsequent announcements. The actual milkweed seeds, plugs, and plants, we've got sources identified for that. For the pollinator pathway signs, those are metal signs that we could have put out. You can find milkweed along our trailways in town and out in the more rural areas. And we have signs that are made to say pollinator pathway, and they're metal signs, and they could be placed to protect either existing milkweed plants or those that we actually seed out. We've got access to seeds. We have also obtained licensed artwork for promotion, and I attached the picture of that in the email that I did send out on the bottom of it, and it shows a hand releasing a butterfly. And it seemed to me at the time of the selection that as we come out of the the COVID pandemic and start to feel our way forward in terms of a recovery, that the gentleness of this picture, as well as the spirit of hopefulness and warmth and engagement with our environment, is a healthy and soothing kind of message. Now, there are a million pictures of the monarch butterfly. So I don't want to say this is the only one we could use, but this one, when I was going through a bunch of pictures, this one kind of struck me as having the kind of sensitivity of the message that we might want to have at this time in our community's life.
A great idea, Greg.
Okay, so and then what we're overlaying this is Yorktown, a monarch butterfly friendly town. And, that'll be labeled and carried on everything we do. So one of the next things we have is the shopping bags. We have shopping bags went out and took a look at a couple of them. They're in that email there. You can click on the email and open it up and see the various types. We've got pricing on that. I'll give you a rough ballpark. It's probably $1,000 to get 500 bags or so. Okay, so that gives you a range of pricing on that. Yes, they're reusable, and they have a graphic rendering of butterflies, and then the logo that I just mentioned would be placed on that as well. So everything that we have would capture that. The next item is the commercial establishment window decals, and that is and Andrew took the lead on this, and Andrew, I appreciated that if you just speak to that, because they came out beautifully, and I just want to make sure you get the credit for it.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I will be quick. The idea of decal or sticker comes from the fact that this is a relatively inexpensive way to order number of units and proliferate information very quickly. It can act as a bumper sticker. It can be distributed to merchants so they can customize their existing material by adding sticker to their bags and stuff, and hopefully they can be persuaded to do that, as well as a certain amount of it can be distributed to our partners, and they will either give them away or sell them for interested public. Is a very quick sketch of it is utilizing, and I'm talking about 4-inch wide sticker, which is fairly easy to attach and easy to remove. And it is utilizing Yorktown seal.
I saw that. I like that.
One is a very direct quotation of town seal, and customizing it by putting butterflies stating monarch friendly town. The other is less direct. It will have only Yorktown, probably Yorktown, New York. And again, it is based on our town seal, but it is not direct quotation. So if, again, these are very crude sketches. This is not an artwork, but if it meets with your interest and approval, I can investigate it further, and we can obtain appropriate artwork. The decision to be made here is threefold. First, is it the right approach in terms of building it upon our town seal? Second is if we create the artwork, it can be done very quickly and inexpensively by using art support of existing printers, which will do it for free. Or if there is still any budget left, Thompson Bender, they can prepare, and I will gladly cooperate with them, artwork based on this sketch, but it will be high quality digital artwork which can be used in many different ways. If this campaign will continue, as we hope, it can be used for imprints on other materials. It can be used on direct printing on banners and so on and so on. So, and again, to give you an idea of cost, we can have probably around 2,000 stickers at 4-inch size for around $500–600. So this gives us very wide distribution. The cost per unit is negligible. It is between 15 and 30 cents, depend on the quality of the printing we will go after. And it gives us a broad reach. So this is what I wanted to present today.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Great job, Andrew.
The next item is the organizational reach outs. Before we kind of went into hibernation. We had reached out to Chamber of Commerce, Sergio and Jim Poulin from the Lions Club, and some other common opportunities that you would think, where we've got both committees in town that already are functioning in open spaces and conservation and trails and so on. So those have all been touched base with as well. I also reached out to the Westchester Tourism Lead, that's Natasha Caputo, and I'm looking for support from her, but I did not pursue it based on the hesitation given the considerations of COVID, the pandemic. So I'll wait on that. But we've got some energy around this already. So banners, if we do what we're expecting to do, there's a variety of ways we can do the banners. Andrew just touched on some of the imaging we can put on the banners. We've contacted a local banner shop, and we're in negotiations on pricings. You know, we can go as big as the banner that we put up for the Grange across the front of the firehouse, which is way big. Or we can do desktop and wall-mounted banners that would go behind various work tables. So when I was talking to Hemlock today, they were saying, well, why don't we put up a kind of resource table, and we'll just have the banner behind us or in front of the table. We'll have some material out there. We'll have some plugs to provide, as well as seed packages. And they're ready to go. They actually so. And by the way, they would be interested in a photo op, but we have to. One of the questions I would have to this group is, what is the timing that we should be looking for to actually do the proclamation, which, by the way, can be in advance of actually doing things more tangible, and then following that, consistent with the four-step phasing that we've got for reentry. When do you think we could do something where we can have individuals going out in trails and planting seeds, or working with the garden club, and those kind of things to prepare our own gardens and their own gardens in terms of building pollinator pathways for the monarch butterflies?
The
Do you have any idea of timing?
The trailways are already open, so it's more of a matter of size of a group doing it. But the passive parks remain open. Are 40
Yeah,
miles.
I know that. Yep.
Yeah. So it's just more a matter of, as long as it's not a gathering at this point in time, then one can go and plant. I don't think there's any restrictions on that, because it's passive recreation, and that's allowed. Have you spoken to? I'm curious. Have you spoken to Jim Moderano about a community garden?
The only people I've talked to is the Yorktown Garden Club.
Yeah, and unfortunately Jimmy jumped off, but we were having a conversation. We've had a couple of conversations, and I wonder if this is a good marriage between you and the Parks and Rec department. If they're going to be pursuing a community garden, then we can tie in this whole initiative into that community garden.
Okay, then I'll reach out to him and see where his head is on that matter.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then, did you say you spoke with the YSBA and the chamber regarding the window decals?
We did not talk to the chamber after we gave a review of some of that was in the kit that we're putting together, so that if you're a commercial enterprise or an organization, what it is that we would have. And this is all these items that we've got now. We've firmed up in being able to, we know where we can source them, we know rough estimates of cost, and that we can move forward. But I have to go back now, or we have to go back now and cycle through and see what the level of support is. You know, all of us were kind of charging at this pretty hard in February and March.
Right.
We slowed down because of trying to gauge the seriousness of the pandemic, which was very serious. Mm-hmm. And we thought the best thing would be to slow it down and see where how we come through this, and then use this as part of our social recovery and our economic recovery, as as an element of that.
No, I
know-
agree, and I love the symbolism that you described about emerging from COVID. I thought that was spot on, and so I think it could be very useful and meaningful to our community. I think there's still loose ends that we need to tie up here. My personal opinion. Sorry, what was that?
Well,
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Of course, Al.
Greg Brown, I am so happy that you brought this up. First of all, I love butterflies, but if we're looking for something positive that we can do for once we get out of where we are today, this is it. Are there places in Yorktown where people can visit to see the migration?
Well, they can see it in their own backyard. The butterflies are, as they arrive, they are quite ubiquitous. So I'll give you an example. In the pizza place that I mentioned just before, they have a little garden right in front of their pizza place.
Yes, they do.
And in there is just hundreds of butterflies. And the fellow that actually built that for them was Meadows Farm. So, what I'm trying to do is connect I'm trying to link the commercial businesses with some of the agricultural businesses.
Yes, yes.
And as we go through town, we kind of create those synergies so that we're driving folks to go to restaurants that support farm to table. And, there's a theme here that we want to perpetuate. What I find good about the butterflies is this should, in my estimation, should not be a one-trick pony. We should not be doing it just once. This should be something that should be part of our sustaining identity, because it's really too much of a lift to just kind of do it one time and not kind of embed it in our schools, embed it in our identity, and get Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and those kind of groups participating on this as well. Now, for example, there are, in my daughter's school in Maryland, they have a partnering program with schools that are close to the home base of the wintering over in Mexico. And they actually trade and send resources down to that school in Mexico. And they talk about it in terms of when they're leaving Mexico and when they should be arriving, and then they correspond back and forth. So it's something that has a lot of social implications, that has a lot of educational implications, but it's going to require some sustaining effort to make it what it could be, which is an identity element. Is that make sense? Is there traction there? Or?
It does make sense. I am looking forward to this. I think that little butterfly can provide so much hope for people.
Well, that's where I am. Yep. Well, let me continue. Yeah.
It's Andrew Drews. May I say something? One of the reasons we went for butterflies, Greg decided to pursue it, was fact that we are arbor towns. There are many arbor towns, but there are no monarch butterfly towns as yet. And it can be a differentiator, which is very positive for our image. And it is extension of all other green and environmental initiatives and facilities we have. Secondly, there is existing infrastructure, and this is direct response to your question, can people see the migration? Yes, they can. All it is we have to do is proliferate information that they can subscribe to Journey North website, which is very easy. And then you can link your observations just by clicking on two links saying, oh, I saw butterflies today in my garden, address is such and such. This thing will be put on a map of a nation, and your name and address will be there. And it is in itself interesting game to see where they are, when they are coming, and all those things. So one of the reasons we felt butterflies are suitable is because this huge infrastructure which we can tap into and use to propagate information about our town.
You know, this is such the kind of educational program that could be used by children of all levels. There's so much to learn.
I agree, Alex.
In Dutchess County, they just released, in Dutchess County, the Soil and Conservation Group released a at-home children's guide for to support the monarch butterfly. And
can we replicate that?
You know,
I mean, I'm just thinking right now with the fact that, you know, I've got like a 4-year-old who's bouncing off the walls at home. I'm sure there's a lot more.
That's exactly.
Maybe we can replicate it so it gives parents something engaging to do with their kids, learning something.
Well, I called our friends at Westchester County, and they don't have it, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't tripping over my feet on this. And they said they don't have it. When I talked to the Dutchess County folks, I said, can I get, I'd like to get 100 copies. And they said, well, you can print your own, but we can't give you 100 copies unless you're actually a Dutchess County resident. And I understand that. But can we print off a couple? Yeah, it's just, it's a printable document.
Yeah, we can definitely print some and distribute it. That shouldn't be a problem.
Well, it's now in some of the other attachments that are in the punch list, those little attachments that are at the top of the page of this email. There is a slug of items that are reference material. They're just samples of reference materials. There are specific how-tos for various groups and individuals and classes that tells them how to participate. And be actively involved and use it as an educational and learning experience while it's been a lot of fun. So that's, as Andrew has mentioned, some of these points as well. But I'll get a copy of that Dutchess County one. I'll send it over to you.
That'd be great.
Hey, Greg.
Greg, this is Vishnu. I think the Greg has lots of butterfly in his backyard. I have known since a very, very long time on Ellington Road, and his garden is second to none.
Well, thank you, Vishnu. I went out to it today, and I have to tell you that a lot of my early stuff got washed away. But I will persevere, and I'll get it back in shape for you. So when you come by next time, it'll look better.
Councilman Lachman,
my garlic.
Yep. Hey, Greg, just for like, I grew up in the city, so to speak, and a lot of people have migrated north, like the butterflies. Just if I were to ask you top 3 things I could plant to try to attract the butterfly in my yard.
Milkweed. But you have to plant the milkweed that's indigenous to this area, which is quite common. I'm just saying, don't buy stuff that's from California, because that's not going to be as supportive as the local milkweed, and we have sources for that. Okay, so for example, I think Phyllis in T-Town sources some of that milkweed locally. Okay, so we know exactly what we need to have for locals. Now, milkweed is not the only thing that supports it. However, it is the dominant one. It's where they lay their eggs and those kind of things.
Where do we buy those?
I was just going to ask, Alice, how do we get our hands on those seeds?
Well, there's seed places that stock it. They are both online and some are local. So we can certainly go after the seed. Hudson Valley Seed has it, for example. So buying seeds. I'll give you an example. In Mount Kisco, Now, Kisco has done something coming out of the pandemic where they're giving away at the town center, at the town hall, packs of sunflower seeds. And if Vishnu went by my garden, he knows that I do plant sunflowers, and I grow the mammoth ones, which are about 8 feet high. And this would be no different in terms of us giving away packages of seeds to help celebrate the migration. The reason that seeds are not quite as much fun is that it takes a while for the seeds to come up and the butterflies to come and those kind of things. So there's an intermediary, and that is you plant plugs. They're smaller than full-term plants, and you buy them by a tray, and there's 32 plugs in a tray, and that goes somewhere around $75, $80.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to be mindful of the time here. I don't want to keep everybody up past the bedtime. What's that?
No, we appreciate that. So I just, if we can just close the loop a little bit on this. So we have the tracking system, which we can definitely help publicize and share through the town's website and social media apparatus. We've got the milk. I think Alice is on. I think maybe something we can work on is this milkweed seed and how we can help. Figure out if we can distribute them or
sure we can.
That's an interesting one. I think we should look into that a little bit.
I agree with that.
We know how to source them, and we know how to distribute them. What I wanted to do is to make this as part of the kit. So let's say you went to a restaurant, and the restaurant had a small tray up front, and they had in the window they had a sticker that supported the butterfly, and you go up to the cash register to check out of the restaurant, and there on the counter is a little tray with appropriately signed seeds in it, and you can pick up a pack of seeds, take a brochure on how to plant them, and you're on your merry way. If you're going into meadows or you're going into hemlock, you would have also available to get plugs, which are, as I said, juvenile plants, so that they'll have some benefit during the course of this year.
Right.
So in terms of distribution, we have the starts of that. Okay. It's just how much money we want to spend and how far do we want to go. So I think we ought to just kind of look at this as something that this year is a year of stretching our legs, announcing we're having the promotion, kind of declaring our space so it doesn't get jumped in by somebody else, like even somebody nearby in Westchester. We get the county to kind of help support us, and we get some publicity for that. So we start announcing to the county, look, we got the first monarch butterflies coming in 2 weeks. Why don't we have a little game with either the school kids or the people who are tourists and enjoy ourselves and trying to see who can see the first monarch butterfly.
I actually just got a text from our good friend Ken Belfer over in Mohegan Lake. They had an Eagle Scout building a butterfly garden at Rock Hill Park. They had milkweed planted and growing there last year.
Really?
Yeah. So that's really cool.
Well, T-Town's got some in there, and the person who is the champion of the pollinator pathway is our garden club lead. So that's, we've got enough energy around this to make a difference and to claim that we're participating.
I agree.
The other, just to wrap it up, I do want to come back. I think we're going to defer activities with the schools at this time. There's so much to be done in that space, as there is in many other spaces, that it's hard to kind of get mind share to do this. When the timing is right, we need to go back into that, because that is a real. This is a kid's game as much as an adult game. So we don't want to miss that. So we'll keep that on our screen to look at. But right now we need to back off a little bit.
Yeah, understand.
We have a publication vehicle. T-Town and the Garden Club both publish materials. And when T-Town opens back up, we have to be respectful of their situation as well. When we start to come more alive in that respect, and with the Garden Club as well, we're going to be sending out more information from various organizations that we can co-op.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yes,
I think
Sierra,
we can include it in the in the town's e-newsletter that we put out. I think
That's right. That's exactly
Sierra Club and Hunter Brook Association. There are a number of organizations which we consulted with, and they are ready to go as soon as proclamation is out.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have the proclamation, which we can easily. I mean, if it's a proclamation, then I can just sign it. If it's if we can come back and do a resolution from the board.
Well, there was a couple of things that I had in there. I just want to make sure you're comfortable with, and I put the COVID comment in there.
Yep.
I also changed it from a month activity to an extended activity.
Mm-hmm.
So that we don't, because I'm afraid if we just make it a month and we have a slow start for a whole bunch of different reasons.
Correct.
That we lost the opportunity, and I think we may need to spend a few months building this. So if let's say we had the proclamation June 1.
Yep.
That gives us a couple of weeks to make sure that we're starting to get the messaging out to key players, and then the proclamation comes on top of that. And by the way, if you want to use it as a photo op, which I suggest would be nice, we can do it at Meadows, we can do it at Hemlock.
Yeah.
And the concerns that we had when I talked to Hemlock is if we do it during the time when we can't have large groups, they have a particular on Saturdays they have quite a turnout there. But that, strangely enough, that's not something we necessarily want to be able to show in a camera shot.
Yeah.
So
listen, I think we wait a little bit, and I think we'll have more clarity next week. When
so we can,
and hopefully we'll be.
We can do it. We could do it at the town garden. We could do it at Meadows that doesn't have a lot of crowds and has more crowd control. So we've got some options on that. But
do you know if the milkweed seeds are planted over at like Patriot Park and at the different gardens that are on town property?
I don't know. I think the person who might know is Allison from the Garden Club.
Yeah.
And so I'll pass that on and ask
I'm just
her
curious.
to read on that.
When we do these things, I like to lead by example and make sure that if we're encouraging other people to do it, that at least we've got some space cornered on our own turf that we're engaging in and planting.
Yes. Now there is something else that I'll mention, and the list of ideas goes on and on. But I actually checked the federal government and how they mow their roadways, and there's actually a document that says if you want to reduce your costs and encourage pollinator pathways, there's instructions on how you mow or don't mow certain areas, and that contributes to having more local pollinating capability.
Yep.
But I found it interesting that the FedGov had something in there under the transportation section.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at it.
So the recommendations here, the last one is 15, and I'll wrap, is that I think we ought to do something with a proclamation that goes out dated June 1. We need to, but we don't want to issue a dead letter. We did last year. We did not thump it hard enough when we did the proclamation, but that was it. And we didn't get a lot of bang for it. It was an effort to start something, but it did not have legs. So it would be good if once we have the proclamation, it's ready to go, we spend some time saying, okay, how are we going to communicate this in the best audience to get some attention, so that as we feed more and more things out on the same pipeline, we'll start to have some energy behind it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's good. I think we follow up with a conversation about how we push it out to the public. Obviously, like I said, the proclamation's a no-brainer. It's a ground ball. Happy to do it. And then we just got to take that next step and start beating the drum on it. And I agree. I think it's symbolically, it's very fitting. without a doubt.
I can
How
help
about
you
the-
with some visual stuff to do, leaning back on my old occupation. I think this would be a fun thing for me to work on.
Cool.
Who's that? Alice?
That was
Is that
Alice.
Alice?
Yeah.
Pardon?
TV is one of the best ways to get your information out, and I can work with you on that.
Sounds
But I
good.
just want to confirm that's Alice speaking, right?
Yes, it's Alice. Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay, thanks. Any questions of Phyllis or Andrew, of myself, with what you've seen? Whether we've got enough to start, which my recommendation is we do. And the other is, do we have some seed money to be actually able to start to buy stuff?
I mean, the seed money is hard to come by these days with an $8 million revenue deficit. So,
Well, I know, that's why I want to be direct about it. You
yeah,
know,
absolutely. And right now, I don't think that's something that I can commit to. I mean, if the other board members want to come in on that, it's just with everything being so volatile right now, not knowing our financial footing.
Right.
It's very hard for us to, as much as I'd love to. I'd love to just tell you no problem, and we can figure that out. But I just don't right now. I don't think we're in a position to do that.
Well, I think with the constraints that we're speaking to, and I think they're real, and that is that we have to look at this list of things that we could do and prioritize the things we should do with the money that we have.
Agreed.
And I'm not asking you to say how much it is. I'm just saying that the prioritization probably should be one of the steps that we need to do over the next week.
Yeah, I agree, and also just shared services. Where we can
Yes.
lean on some of our other organizations and capabilities to make up that funding shortfall that you would need to get off the ground.
Yep.
And you're accepting donations, correct, Greg?
Pardon?
Are you accepting donations from the public?
From the public.
Yeah.
I think when we were thinking about this, well, the short answer is any money is gratefully accepted, right? But initially we were thinking that what we wanted to do is to have the public embrace us, so that it was easy for them to begin to understand the pathway, the journey we were on. We can put on our sites a button that says donate here. But then we have to create a financial structure to do that.
Okay.
So we did not exercise that. I mean, if we talk about Hilltop Farm or Musgood or the other places, they all have donate buttons. And it's an easy thing to do it, but you have to have the financial controls in place to steward that money.
Okay.
So I was staying away from it at the first shot. We can put a cookie jar out there and they can drop coins in it, but then we still have to track it.
I think what we should do is we should come back together in the next week or so, go reprioritize the list, figure out who we can get shared service support from, and what's left, and how we tackle that individually.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll check your calendar and we'll see when we can come back together.
Very good. This is great.
Guys,
Great.
I really thank you for the time, and I want to thank the committee members for the strong support and their willingness to really get in there and start pushing the envelope around. So we'll come back later. And then if there's something you want to, if you have any questions on that proclamation, just give me a buzz, or I can talk. I can meet with you if you'd like to do that too.
Greg, no problem. This is really good stuff, and we appreciate your leadership and commitment to it. So we're looking forward to getting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll have to sharpen up my Zoom skills.
Yeah. Excellent. Greg,
thank you all very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's great. That's great stuff. Next on the agenda, this is going to be very short and sweet, is the Featherbed subdivision low pressure sewer system. Latest on this, my understanding, and we have our town engineer and town planner with us, is that the County Department of Health is not reviewed or provided any feedback as to what we discussed at our last meeting?
That's correct, Supervisor. I've called and reached out to them twice. Still waiting to hear back. So we're trying to clarify a few things, and Joreen and I are drafting up some draft points for a town code update.
Great. So it's a dual track. We've got County Department of Health on board, and then we're going to get a code enhancement that you and Jorina and John are working on together. So hopefully we can see a draft of that in the next week or two in time for our next work session. And I hope that we can have a report from the County Department of Health by next week.
Okay.
Mr. Taggart, any comments?
No, I think you covered it.
Anyone from the board? Nope. All right. Very good, gentlemen. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night. Yep.
Okay. So moving on to resolutions. I'm gonna go through them all, and we can hopefully approve everything at the end. We have a resolution to authorize the supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County for the distribution and operation of emergency communications equipment. We have a resolution to authorize the comptroller to pay out Reva Queller the cash value of unused time as of her retirement date. We also have a resolution to authorize the comptroller to pay out Isabel Klein the cash value of unused time as of her retirement date. We're going to authorize the comptroller to process the following budget transfer. We're going to authorize the comptroller, from the general fund balance at $21,388.06 to the workers' comp indemnity payments of, again, $21,388.06. We're also going to authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer from the highway fund balance of $12,508.81 to workers' comp indemnity payments for the same amount. We're going to pass a resolution to authorize the comptroller to release escrow deposit for street opening permit number 019-006, the amount of $2,000. We're also going to authorize the town clerk to advertise bids for pavement markings. That's from the highway department. And then last but not least, which is not on here because the town board was discussed this and closed and made a decision on this. Excuse me 1 second. I know. Here it is. We're going to also authorize the comptroller to compensate Linda Bitondo for work performed on March 9th through the 13th and March 16th of 2020. I entertain a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? And with that being said, that concludes the business before the board. Before we adjourn, I do want to make a point to wish my wife a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday.
Happy birthday.
We did get cake.
Happy birthday, Kelly.
And we had
Happy birthday, Kelly.
Front, so that was exciting. With good friends who stopped by to say hi. But happy birthday to my amazing wife, Kelly. And I hope that Charlie is home in bed tonight because he was too excited to sleep last night. And with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Hey, Yorktown. Stay safe.
Good night.
You all.